We are here at the SDG Media Zone in the Goals House with SAP taking place during Cannes Lions Festival. So, why don't we tell everybody who you are, what you're doing, and what brings you here?
Go ahead, Rebecca. So, Rebecca Minkoff, founder of Rebecca Minkoff and the Female Founder Collective, and I'm here to celebrate a partnership with SAP SuccessFactors and really championing gender equality and the work we're going to be doing together to make it so that in our lifetime we can stop talking about equal pay.
Fantastic.
And that's a great segue into why we're here. So I'm Kirsten Allegri. I'm the CMO of SAP SuccessFactors, and here with Rebecca Minkoff because we really believe that we need to celebrate companies who are really championing the UN Global Goals, gender equality being one of the key strategic initiatives that we want to celebrate the companies that are making progress against that goal. And the result is how companies are really leading and driving their own human revolution, really celebrating the power and passion of their people to be a part of moving the needle on societal change. And we see that as a tremendous opportunity here in Cannes as well, because we do see that companies that start celebrating the people behind the brands and people who are advocating for their people as great brand ambassadors of their companies, they really are the ones who will be able to create more shareholder value for their investors. They're going to be able to create a more highly engaged workforce in terms of attracting and retaining talent. And ultimately, we feel that the more brands will be able to share who they are on the inside, it is more reflective of the kinds of companies or customers that they attract in terms of their external brand narrative. So that's a little bit of why we're here in Cannes.
This is fantastic, and thank you for sharing that. So, start to share with me now then, what are some of the most effective ways that you've seen technology address the Sustainable Development Goals?
So I'll start with that, Rebecca. One of the things we do at SAP SuccessFactors, we provide solutions for companies to help them with their human capital management. When we look at the opportunities for companies to really be able to drive social change, not just as a charitable giving act, it's about how do you embody the UN Sustainability Goals as part of your core business. So some of the things that we do within our technology platform is we take a look at whether or not you may have unconscious bias deeply hidden within your communications. We partner with an incredible organization and partner called Cultivate, where they can actually detect bias within communications that you may have with your team. Wow. So how are you communicating with men versus women, or ethnic populations versus non-ethnic populations? That's one key example. Another is on our job analyzer tools. So our statistics have shown there's certain language in the hiring and recruiting process that actually detracts women from applying for jobs. So how do we eliminate that bias even within the job descriptions of how we're promoting and recruiting talent and how they're hired and evaluated? So that's another aspect of how technology can really raise the level of transparency. If you may have a gender inequity that may exist within your organization that you may not know about.
Gosh, that's like a lot to take. And it's fantastic because it literally makes us look at it from such a different perspective.
Yes.
When I think of technology, I think branding, communication, social media.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add on that about the power that social media has helped you with your various initiatives?
Yeah, one thing I would say is one of the partnerships that Female Founder Collective launched was with Yelp, and that you could actually launch a female founded attribute. So now, with the millions of companies that list on Yelp, you can say, I'm a female founder, this is my business. And can we drive consumers to actually be the voice of change? And, within the US alone, there's 12 million women-owned businesses. So rather than us look at the pay inequity gap, from 20 more women being CEOs, all being paid tens of millions of dollars, do you have 12 million founders all being, supported by the consumer? And technology can make that really easy. Imagine if some of the big companies, you could search on the biggest company in the world by female founders and shop female founded, right? What impact would that make? Or could you eventually, have your supply chain within some of the biggest corporations in the world, say like our straws, our cups, and our chairs are going to be from female-founded companies, and could you make that incremental change? So technology can be, an enabler in that very, very quickly. It's just, the person with the key saying yes.
Yes, and that's something that we are working on.
Absolutely.
We're absolutely working on, because we know that the type of employee experience that people within a company, they want to be able to buy with the same kind of consumer purchasing that they would in their personal lives. And so when they're buying within their own organization, how do we encourage more supplier diversity within the buying patterns within an organization? Where, depending on the size of the company, that could be billions, if not trillions of dollars of spend that could be directed to diverse or women-founded businesses. So we believe the power of technology is really to help organizations scale versus one-to-one relationships. We can make much greater exponential change if we can allow technology to raise that level of insight.
Absolutely. And one thing I just wanted to add here is, Rebecca, you're one of the leading, most iconic fashion designers out there. But to those that don't know, give us a quick brief and the mission of the Female Founder Collective.
So I launched the Female Founder Collective last September with the idea that, could we get our consumer, again, to change their behavior to shop female? So as a mother, I look at every single thing I buy. Is it non-GMO? Is it organic? And could we say this is female founded, it's a seal that goes right where all those labels are, or it's in your storefront on our website, and really create a community around this idea. So we're building a database right now, which will actually be the list of female founded services and products. But then it's a community of over 5,000 women that are all sharing, here is what to avoid. It's the ways for female founders, in a way.
I like that description.
And the black book of, resources, tips, tricks, avoid this, here's a shortcut. So there's a really vibrant community there. And then we have big partnerships, whether it's with SAP or other companies I've named, that really say, we have technology at our hands, let's use it to make change fast.
So whilst we're talking about what you can do for other people's businesses, let's just take a moment. How do your respective workplaces promote the goals like SDG 5, gender equality, as well as very linked and leading into SDG 3 with health and well-being?
Well, I'll start with that one. So there's a couple of key areas at SAP SuccessFactors that we are using technology to innovate in those areas. So the first, when you think about the overall employee experience, we've developed a new Thrive XM Index together with Thrive Global, which is Ariana Huffington's company, and Qualtrics, to be able to look at the key moments that matter in an employee's life cycle with the company. And those are the family experience, health, time, financial, and their career experience, because we recognize that people need to be able to bring their whole selves to work. Who they are on the outside, and then what is their experience inside of work, and identify what those experience gaps are. And so with our partnership with Thrive, we have a work-life solution that integrates micro steps within the day-to-day experience of employees, so that if you haven't taken a break in 4 hours of conference calls, studies show that you need to be able to manage your time more in 90-minute sprints and take a break and walk away from your desktop, take get some fresh air, take a walking meeting instead of a meeting on the phone. So incorporating these microsteps directly into an individual's productivity in their daily lives can actually elevate the overall organizational culture and how you're getting the best out of your people and enabling them to thrive. So that's one example. And the other, I would say, is the work we're doing with Qualtrics and identifying these experience gaps in these categories. So take the family experience, where when you're coming back from maternity leave or parental leave, how stressful that transition is back to work. It's not just about the programs and policies that a company may have for their people coming back. It's how are we adjusting to fit the lifestyles of what may work for one individual employee but not for another. But ultimately that all impacts employee retention and turnover and really hardline costs that hit the bottom line.
Anything to add?
I think for us, we recognize that whether you have a family or not, time off is really important and your time is valuable. So we've made steps, whether we close at 3 o'clock on a Friday and open Monday at 10 a.m. to when you work a weekend, that's a comp day, to 5 summer Fridays. I think for us, the more time we can give you away to not be working remotely, just be away.
Switched off.
Switched off is your time, and I think, it's known around the office, like, for most everyone. I mean, there's extreme cases during Fashion Week. But like, leave at 6, please leave at 6. And I think that I want people to see that as a mother of 3, it's important I get home for dinner, and I want you to get home for dinner too.
That's excellent. Now, you've touched on about your partnerships, whether that's together or what's to come. Let's talk about how you're leveraging these partnerships to now scale platforms to create the social change. And with it being so new with September, I'm sure you've got so much more to come yet.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's probably some things you can share with our audience that you're doing together, and maybe a call to action on that as well, how they can get involved or when we can find out more.
Okay, great. Well, so initially, we're really excited that we'll be launching a podcast series together.
Congratulations.
With Rebecca with the Superwoman Podcast series. And you can share a little bit more about that. So we encourage everybody to tune in and subscribe. So I'll let Rebecca talk about the details of the podcast. But we're also championing a lot of these topics at our future events, within our campaigns and our social media content strategy, so that we can really elevate the topic. And it's not just about elevating the topic and discussing it, but the clear actions that we can give companies that they can take to be able to mobilize their workforce behind buying female-founded companies. So do you want to talk about the podcast a little bit?
Yeah. So it's a 6-episode series, and we have incredible women that have been, people that I've gotten to interview, and really just asking them questions that we feel are meaningful and that really relate back to these goals. And so it's exciting conversation. I feel like sometimes when the conversations end and they're like, that's it, we're done. I was like, well, I have a 30-minute time slot for you, so we're done. But like, we could have kept going, and I think the conversation will be rich and engaging and really special. And I think that's just the beginning. The stuff that we are working on could potentially change the trajectory of, hundreds of thousands of companies, and I think that's where it gets really exciting, because then you're just making change. Like, there's a lot of people here talking, but what are they doing when they go back home?
Exactly,
to really,
the action, because that's what we love to see at the SDG Media Zone. We love that when we first launched for this, it was ideas, because it was all the beginning phase, but now what's incredible is seeing what's cultivated, the results, the data, and the continuous action that's going on. Where can we find this podcast and when?
Wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, it's called Superwoman with Rebecca Minkoff, and we'll be launching in the next few weeks.
Well, congratulations. Everyone make sure you go to that. So, just referencing back, Rebecca, you mentioned being a mother of 3. So with that, can you share with us, from both of you, please, how you've overcome your own personal challenges when it comes to promoting your own good health and well-being, and how that really influences your view on that goal, and how you do that with a director in your life or with your team? We can't help it, it's all interlinked these days. So share something about that with us.
I think that, for me, when I started my company, I was okay to devote 80-hour weeks, working from 9 to midnight every night. And the minute I had my son, I said, I want to be there to raise him. And then obviously with more children, you really have to rely on your team and hire the right people, that you have more people to lay bricks. And so I think that I'm only as good as a mom as I am well slept and well balanced. That's not really a word I believe in, but I can go to work and also be a very present mother. So I think simple things, like I don't check my email on the weekend anymore, and it took 14 years to get to that state.
Right.
But you know what? I'm not curing cancer, so if something is really urgent, I can get a text. And just that detachment from something you feel tethered to all the time has made a huge difference in my enjoyment of a weekend. On Monday, I'm excited, I'm refreshed to go back to work. So I think it's those small things that you're like, I can never get off my phone. You can get off your phone, it's okay.
You can, and I think it also allows you to be so present and create memories that your family will remember.
Correct.
Yes, and I can say, having worked with members of Rebecca's team, role modeling the culture that you desire for yourself and how that translates into the people you work with is really felt. And they've said to me firsthand how much they appreciate how you have really role modeled the behavior of creating this culture around your own individual well-being, and everyone in the company feels that as well. So you've been a real role model for people. For me personally, my big wake-up call moment happened 6 years ago when I was diagnosed with cancer. And so I had a wake-up call in the most dramatic of ways. And when we think about the core experiences within an employee's life cycle of the company, I experienced the family, health, and career experience all at one time. I had a 1-year-old baby at the time, my first daughter. And so when you think about that transition back to work, that was a really crucial transition. And fortunately for me, SAP has had the type of company culture, leadership principles, partnership through human resources that allowed me to take that transition after a significant life event of having a baby and going through cancer, and turn that into a pivotal moment in my career where I could tap into that personal passion of keeping our health and our well-being as the #1 priority focus in everything that we do. Because I can tell you from experience that if you don't have your health, you cannot be there for your family, you cannot be there for your employees or your colleagues, much less try to make a meaningful contribution at work. And so for me personally, championing this UN SDG goal is a great passion of mine. And I am just supercharged to be able to help companies be able to implement the kind of strategies that they could affect the lives of every single employee within their organizations, so that, God forbid, whatever life experience you're going through, and it doesn't have to be as dramatic as mine, we all deal with things on a day-to-day basis. How do you create the kind of culture that allows people to thrive and be their best selves?
And you're an embodiment to this now. Having gone through it, you can truly relate to the programs you're creating, the partnerships, what's important, and how to drive this goal.
That's right.
And thank you for sharing that, because that's so brave of you as well. And I think it just shows how passionate and courageous you're being with what you're doing. I want to return to a comment you mentioned earlier about gender equality and what could we see to change in our lifetime, which would be fantastic. So either of you start, but share with us, what do you think it'll really take to move the needle on achieving gender equality in our lifetimes?
I have a few ideas.
Excellent, share them with us.
So I think, we talk about these sad statistics of, women at Fortune 500, Fortune 50 companies, there aren't enough of them. And I think I want to go back to, the way that gender pay is averaged is, a lot of people making a lot of money, and then you say, oh, we'll achieve scale. But again, let's go back to the 12 million just in the US, and outside of that, far larger, right? Of how could we get these small mom and pop or mom shops to actually get supported, and you can affect it with supply chain, as we've talked about. You can affect it by major companies. I made a joke to another big search engine, and I said, what if women-owned companies got to pay 80 cents on the dollar for their ads, while male companies can pay $1? Why don't we do that until it's equal, right? And so just these...
How receptive were they?
They said it was illegal, but... But imagine if everyone took that idea of, wow, there are these inequities that with, a couple of people, great product teams and great technology, we can really change shopping behavior, purchasing behavior, and that's what will do it, right? If we are flowing money and wealth to women.
Yes. Yes, and some of the things we're doing at SAP around this topic, I'm very proud that we've been able to reach our goal of 25% of women in leadership in 2018. We're on pace for our 30% goal by 2022.
Congratulations.
But there's obviously so much work for us to do. We have exceptional leadership, like Jennifer Morgan, who's one of our board members, who really has taken it upon herself to champion this topic for SAP. So leadership from the top down is absolutely crucial. But in terms of what can companies do, we partner with an incredible organization called PayScale. And we're able to actually detect if there are pay equity gaps within your employee base. Again, it's about leveling up what may be inequities in your people that you may not know really exists. And so that's one example of how technology can actually raise the level of transparency on the existing dynamics of your workforce, and then be able to take action and make sure that everyone is paid equitably within the organization. So I do think that the more leaders can get more information about women-founded businesses, like what we're doing with Rebecca's network, which is truly vast, how they can leverage technologies to implement within existing core business operations, the combination of understanding the awareness of these businesses, plus how are you operating as a business, and bring those things together, that's where you can accelerate the change.
Excellent, thank you. Now you've both shared with us, whether it's from Thrive to the Female Founder Collective and the Superwoman Podcast that's coming out, but give us some insight to what we could also see to the near future into where we're looking to achieve the 2030 agenda. What else are we going to see within your companies? And it doesn't need to be specifics, just maybe some goals that are important from employee through to consumer and so forth that we're going to see as you continue to create positive change.
I mean, I think for Female Founder Collective, we're creating a really robust database. So you'll be able to land on one page that'll list off all the female-founded products and services and really drive traffic and revenue. And then on the back end, a member portal so that these founders can share their, deal flow, their black book, their lists, and really help and support each other. So that's something we're aggressively hoping to launch by September. And really just make it easy to flip the switch, and you know who these women are, and you know how you can support.
And just a question on that, beyond looking at the database, will there be labeling that we'll start seeing on websites? Is it on their social media?
It's already,
Is it like an ad we can look out for? And who's using it already? Who's some great examples?
So, I mean, Birchbox on 2.5 million boxes every month has adopted it. Health Aid Kombucha, Lola tampons on all their products, Universal Standard, Dry Bar, Feed. It's a great list of women.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's really phenomenal. So excited to be a part of it. And, some of the other initiatives that we're driving specifically around the UN SDGs include our partnership with sustainable brands around our Brands for Good campaign. And so SAP SuccessFactors will be leading the employee engagement aspect of that campaign. So as we celebrate the companies that are driving sustainable change within their marketing and brand strategy, we also want to celebrate the people behind the brands who are doing all of the phenomenal work. And so I do feel that the more we can put a face to the people who are really leading these initiatives and their personal stories, as I've shared mine, that's a personal connection to the initiatives. And I think we should be able to see more of that as we go into the next year, as we drive more momentum around this campaign. And we'd certainly love to feature female founder businesses as well within that.
Okay, I think as we wrap this up, and thank you both for sharing so much, a call to action to our community and following here. Website, social media, anything that you want to share so they can get on and follow you immediately and get involved in anything?
I think if you can follow at the Female Founder Collective and listen to the podcast coming soon. It's Superwoman with Rebecca Minkoff, and tune in to see who our guests are. We'll keep that a mystery to entice you.
Yes.
And then wherever you can affect, whether it's supply chain or businesses you can support, or easy things done technology-wise that you can really start enabling search and buy through females.
Yes, absolutely. So attend the Superwoman Podcast. We'll be exploring all sorts of topics that are really relevant to champion the gender equality initiatives and the workforce challenges and opportunities that companies have that they can take action immediately right now. So I would love to see as many people as possible attending the podcast. And also, let us know about how you're leading your own human revolution in your own organization. So we have a hashtag and a movement that we launched, #HumanRevolution, so that we can capture those stories. So we'd love to hear from everyone.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you both so much for your time.